So welcome today to the very first video recording of Tales to Tell podcast. We have a little bit of a different show for you today. I'm here today with Dr. Ariana Pereira, one of my associates. Super excited about this. And we will get to talking to her quickly. So happy that she elected to talk with me. So we'll get right to it. And Dr. Pereira has been here at the clinic for about 6 months. She's a newer grad. We're going to talk about newer grad issues. We're going to talk about her going to school in London, which is awesome. I went to Auburn. The other associate, Dr. Anderson, went to school in the islands. So we have really different experiences where we all went to vet school. Talked to her about some issues that newer grads seem to face with vet school and COVID. You went to school during COVID and getting out and what you learned and maybe what you didn't get the chance to learn that you feel like you might be making up for now. And we just were talking before we started recording about how on paper you might look fancy, but you say you're not fancy. So we can touch on that as well. But I'd like to start with the question of, we're not going to ask your age, but I'm going to ask you, what was the 8-year-old Ariana Pereira like?
Okay. Total tomboy. Was outside running around. I always had crazy hair.
You grew up?
I guess I should start there.
Well, no, that's okay. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Rhode Island. So further up north, seasons. I miss the seasons.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just tomboy, loved animals, was this free spirit even back then.
I can see it. You still are. Dogs and cats when you were 8 years old? Do you remember?
Exclusively.
Dogs exclusively. Indoor dogs, outdoor dogs, both?
Both.
Okay. And what kind?
I always grew up with golden retrievers, so they have a special place in my heart.
You sound like a younger version of myself. So did you grow up fishing, riding a bike? Were you barefoot?
Barefoot, riding a bike, fishing on the weekends, all of it. Yeah.
That's great. And you are more of a mama's girl or a daddy's girl?
Daddy's girl. Daddy's girl. I do get along with both really well, which is,
that's awesome.
Bugs my sister, but.
And you have an older sister.
Yes.
And you are an aunt.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great job because you don't feel as emotionally responsible.
I get to do all the fun stuff without any of the responsibility.
I've met your niece. She's awesome.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. So that's really cool. So that's a little bit about the 8-year-old Ariana. Would she be happy knowing you now with what you've decided to do with your life, do you think?
Yes, I think so. 8-year-old Ariana wanted to be a veterinarian.
Okay, she knew that.
She knew that. Yep. I did stray a little bit through my teens and my early 20s, and then I ended up coming back to it.
Yeah. And do you think the reasons why you wanted to be a veterinarian at 8 are the reasons why you are a veterinarian at your age now?
No, I don't think so. I mean, yes and no. Because I love dogs then. I love dogs now. Anytime I can get my face in a dog's face, which you probably shouldn't do. I might get bit at some point.
You don't recommend it. Yeah.
No, I don't recommend. But yeah, anytime I can just, even when I'm out, and you see a dog walking, like, do I ask the person's name? Absolutely not. Right. I say, what is the name of this beautiful creature? Right. And can I pet them? Please?
Right. It's almost in a way, and I just want to say this as a non-veterinarian, but it's almost a relief to see a pet and it's human and them not know you're a vet.
Absolutely.
Because you can just it can satisfy you and they don't need anything from you. It's a lot when you go out. And I love seeing my clients out and then the patients out, but I do live very close to my place of work and my business. So I do see clients at church when my kids are in school, at the store, at restaurants. And I was out with Adam to eat the other night. And I said, oh my gosh, help me remember their pet's name. And, sometimes you just want to see the dog or the cat and experience that and not have that pressure of, oh, shoot, how's that pet doing? What was their latest diagnosis? I hope they're doing okay. Yeah. And it's just how our brains work. So I understand that point. Yeah, totally. I totally understand that point. So tell me then now, and I know you're out not working here at quite a year. So I would say you're still a new grad.
Yep.
What is one of the best things about being a veterinarian, if you could? And it's okay if you're still trying to sort that out. But what would you say is one of the best things? And it could be just simple. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything amazing, but I'm just curious. And then, I'm going to ask you next, what's one of the hardest things?
Yeah. So there's nothing better than seeing a patient that's not doing well, vomiting, lethargic, not acting itself, and then you do however many tests, you figure out what's wrong with it, you treat it, and then you get to see it 2 weeks later and it comes in with its tail wagging, its ears are up, there's nothing better than that feeling of I helped this pet. I found out what was wrong with it.
Right. And the clients are thankful and happy and mention that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we don't get that feedback. We don't get that feedback.
Yeah.
We get the other feedback, which may or may not be one of the hardest parts for you. But what would you say is one of the hardest parts?
So as
a new grad,
that same scenario where I have a patient not doing well and I can't figure out what's wrong with it. And I get to a point where I feel like I'm throwing treatments at it, just hoping something sticks, hoping something works. And, I'm consulting textbooks, you guys, my, I was going to say senior, but my experienced coworkers, colleagues. And you just, for whatever reason, can't figure it out.
Right.
That's a terrible feeling.
Sure. And I think, so I've been out of school now 29 years, right? And I still have that feeling that you have at times. And then I've had other things in life, right? I've had ups and downs of marriage, loss of parents, ups and downs with kids, loss of friendships. And not that you haven't experienced these things, just I've had many more years of those experiences of humility, of vulnerability. And you realize that nowhere are we told that we have to figure it out. We don't have to figure it out.
But I want to.
I know you do. And I know it is what many veterinarians struggle with and feel like we have to know how to do. But nowhere are we held to that. We're held to being present, hearing what the client is saying, doing a thorough exam, talking with the client, presenting the options and the treatment, whatever it is we can do here in these walls. And if not, sending them somewhere that might be able to help advance that diagnosis. And I remember one of my professors at Auburn saying, please get comfortable in saying, I don't know. And you know what? I don't know. There's times I don't know. I don't have to know all the answers. And I get it. It's a lot of what makes us great. And it's a lot of what can burn us out. It's a lot of what can make us crazy. But you don't have to know. But I understand. And I love that work ethic. And we do just have to work on, hey, it's okay. I'm a human being. And I bet you don't hold anybody else to that standard.
No.
You just hold yourself to that standard. Yeah. And you would tell me, I don't have to know all these things either. Right. So we hold ourselves to this standard. And it's not a problem. It's something to be aware of in our profession and for us to be gentle with each other. And especially when we have a client, which sometimes we do, and maybe I currently am experiencing this, that we get some feedback that is so against everything we stand for. Mm-hmm. And we know ourselves, and our parents know us, and our significant others know us, and our friends know us, and our coworkers know us. But it's just one person out of all of these other people can say something, and it really can be destructive. Mm-hmm. It is definitely really tough.
Yeah.
I was talking about this to Bella, my daughter, and she said, wow, you really can wrap up your identity in your clinic. And it hit me. Because it becomes a lot of us, right? And a lot of our day.
Yeah.
But, if our parents like us and our siblings like us, and we're doing a pretty darn good job there, like that's really where it's at. So anyways, it's a struggle throughout. So I get it. And it will always be a struggle because I still struggle with that, but it gets better.
Yeah.
It gets better. And you start to compartmentalize. So it's very important. And I want to hear more about you going to school in London, because yes, that does sound fancy, but I'm getting that you're not fancy.
I'm not fancy. I'm fancy on paper. I'm not. I think once you meet me, you're like, No,
I think you're a perfect combo of all of it. I used to say I could go from a tractor pull to a country club.
Okay.
I loved the tractor pull. I used to go with my dad as a little girl, and then I think he tried to teach me things at a country club, but it really wasn't my thing. Mm-hmm. So maybe a balance is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But you have some great travel stories. You've gone to some really cool places, and then you went to school in London. So I'd just like to hear what it was like with your experience of going to vet school in London.
Sure. So kind of like I said, I wanted to be a veterinarian, and then I went this roundabout route, and then I came back to it, in my mid 20s, let's say. Mm-hmm. I don't want to age myself too much. And I knew, okay, this is what I really want to do. Yep. I want to do something different. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I had lived in Rhode Island all my life. And then I moved to Florida, after college initially. And I was here for a few years, and I was just like, I want something different.
Sure.
Yeah. So I ended up applying to the vet school in London just as like a whim. I applied to a few places.
Yeah.
Applied there as a whim, and then I got an interview, and I wasn't anticipating that. And I kind of said, oh, okay, let's go to this interview. And then when I was there, they were like, oh, at the time, this was like 2018, 2017. They were like, we're the third best vet school in the world.
Whoa.
So then a little bit of my ego kicked in, and I was like, oh, me, Ariana Pereira, is going to go to the third best vet school in the world?
Of course she is.
Yeah. And then throughout that interview, I just loved everything they had to offer. Yeah. Got accepted, just picked up everything and moved. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. The British, love them or hate them, and trust me, I definitely have a love-hate relationship with them.
Interesting.
I do love them. They just have their I'm not even going to try to say it on this podcast. They're oddities. Let's go with oddities. Okay. That's easier to say.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. For me, I think one of my biggest things or struggles, I thought I'd be homesick. I was not.
Okay.
After 2 weeks, I was like, nah, I'm supposed to be over here.
Cool.
But yeah, balancing my schoolwork with my social life.
After
my after-curriculars. Yeah.
That's awesome, though. So like a typical day would be going to class all day, cutting off at 3 to 5, something like that.
Yeah, around 3 to 4.
I have a feeling
there was maybe 6 pubs on my walk home. You'd stop in a couple. You know?
Of course.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. And so how big was your vet school class?
It was huge. It was maybe 300 of us.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
And I would say 1/3 of those were Americans or Canadians.
Oh, that's awesome. So mine was 90. I had 90 in my vet school class, and we definitely got to know each other really well. So I can imagine you felt the same.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you went through 4 years
Yes.
with them and similar rotations of small and large, or did you choose one or the other?
Small and large.
Okay.
I think the difference going to school in the UK, there's more of an emphasis on farm animals.
Sure. Which is awesome.
It is.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes and no. Cows I love. Sheep,
Okay.
I can't stand sheep.
Okay, what is it? What is it about sheep? Or what does it mean to you? What is it that set you off or you didn't like?
They are a handful, let's say. And they're, I don't know, just trying to catch and tip a sheep was not my forte.
Was anybody good at that?
Yeah.
Okay. Was any woman your size good at that?
Yes.
Okay. Because I always felt like at Auburn, it was the taller girls or the tall guys that just could grab them in this one
effortless
swoop. Yes. And like turn them over and then shear them or whatever they would do. Because really once you had them in that position, you could do basically anything to them. Right?
Correct.
I mean, granted, I so obviously graduated a while ago and I'm just going on my memory and I have not laid hands on a sheep outside of maybe a petting zoo with my kids when they were little since vet school.
Okay.
So it was the catching of the sheep that was most difficult.
Yes.
And then I'm like, hey, buddy, can you help me get this sheep in the position? Because it was very difficult for me. I did not know the technique. So, but I think they're so cute.
Sure.
But who
off
cares?
In a field, off over there where I don't have to do anything to them. Yeah.
Yes.
Love sheep.
And did you work on goats as well?
Yes.
Okay.
They're a little bit better.
Yes. Goats they're really stinking cute. And then cattle as well.
Cattle. Yep.
Yeah. That's really cool. Okay. So do you have a crazy farm animal story or anything that sticks out in your mind that, like, we did a lot of llamas at Auburn.
Oh, really?
Yes. And then emus, we had ostriches, which were, I think they just told us to do it so they could watch us run around and look silly.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And then we were responsible for milking the dairy herd at 4:45 a.m. and p.m. So that was the students' responsibility. I don't even think you could get away with that anymore. Maybe they do, but that was the student's job. So that was always an eye-opening experience. So definitely hard work. But do you have any stories like that you recall?
So we had to do it was called animal handling experience, like early on our first year. And we had to do 2 weeks in pretty much every species.
Okay.
So I was on a chicken farm, but they had reindeer as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And what would they normally use the reindeer for?
They would do events like in the winter. They would have, the high street would close down and they'd travel with the reindeer.
Okay.
Just for like petting purposes. But our job for an hour every morning was to train the reindeer to walk on a harness. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I don't think I've ever come face to face with a reindeer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So really cool. So you did that, and then that was your final year, what we would call your clinics or your final rotations in your fourth year, or was that your junior year?
That was my first year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it was just like we were basically free labor. The UK has figured it out.
Yes.
Have all these students go. Like another thing UK students have to do, we have to go lambing in the spring.
Okay. Maybe explain that just for people that might not know. Yeah.
So for the most part, lambs are born in the spring. It's just the way they cycle there. The industry does it so that they're all born at the same time. So you'll have the farm I went to had maybe 400 ewes that were pregnant. So female sheep. But basically the students are there they can, for the most part, give birth naturally on their own, but the students are there to intervene, if needed, if it's a breach or what have you, whatever difficulty.
Yeah.
So for 2 weeks, I lived on a farm in Ireland.
Awesome.
Yep.
Was there any Guinness at the end of those days?
So much Guinness. So much Guinness, Dr. Burt.
It always goes back to Guinness. I will have to say, if I pass a difficult case off to Dr. Pereira, there's a 6-pack again is on the desk because I feel so bad and I need help. I'm like, I need help, please. And then there it is. And she's like, you don't have to do that. But anyhow, birds of a feather.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you. That's an experience that just, I would say most vets don't have. And so many vets track. So to explain that track, they pick up small or large right from the beginning in vet school. And I did not at Auburn. So I did large and small the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I have lost a bunch of the large animal experience. But I could technically do any of those species if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And it was some of the best memories of doing the large animal and riding around in the ambulatory truck. Mm-hmm. With meeting the farmers, being out. I think the ambulatory large animal pushed me to have the confidence to do house calls for 10 years because I understood that experience of pulling up at people's houses and going into their home and feeling comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of personalities wouldn't feel comfortable with that. Yeah. But I loved that farm experience minus the chasing the animals around. It always perplexed me how, okay, we're going to show up at 1:00 and then you show up and you're like, hey, Mr. Jones, where's the horse? Oh, he's back there somewhere. You got to go find him. Like, how is that efficient? But it happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
And you'd have to, that was an hour or two of your day is finding said animal and bringing it back. Anyhow. So you would absolutely go to school in London again.
Yes.
Loved it. Mm-hmm. And did you make the determination small animal was your thing?
Yes. Yeah.
And you would not go back to large animal as of right now?
No, never.
Okay.
Never.
And so far with this amount of time into your first veterinary job, more happy than not?
I think more happy than not, for sure.
Easier than you thought?
I'm learning that I actually know stuff. So yeah, I'll go with easier.
You do know stuff. You do know stuff. You do know stuff.
Yeah.
I think you and I both have the personality. It doesn't matter what we would be doing, that we would probably struggle with how much we know. And that's just we've talked about that. That's a different beast. That's comes from a different part of us that is a little bit of self-doubt.
Yeah.
That also makes us great at what we do.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
It's no good to show up and think you know everything and think that you can't be taught something. Mm-hmm. It's great to take other people's opinions or corrections, or if some people call it criticism, but it's not really that. I'm willing to improve. I spent all day Saturday in a surgery class. I spent all day yesterday working at the emergency clinic, and neither were paid. And I want to learn still.
Yeah. And
I learned a lot. And I think the minute that we say, I know it all is not a good thing. Mm-hmm. So that's fascinating. And then you moved back here to the US of A.
Mm-hmm. I sure did.
You did. Here you are.
Here I am.
And decided to come back to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me a little bit about that. We already discussed how your dad's from Portugal. Mm-hmm. And I talk about Tony quite a bit just because I know Tony's such a great chef.
Yes.
Not to discount your mom, because I'm sure she is as well.
We don't let her cook.
Okay. And I'm sure they're so proud of you and supportive of everything that you've done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's such a great thing for parents.
Yeah. So I think for me, again, I grew up in Rhode Island. I'll say that 6 more times during this podcast.
Yes.
I love the Northeast. I love winter. I love snow. I love all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. So it was a little bit difficult for me to go, yes, I'm going to live in Florida full time.
Yeah.
But I do have my parents close by.
Yeah.
I have my sister.
Yeah.
Niece, nephew, brother-in-law. And they're such a supportive family. We are a supportive family unit.
You guys seem very close.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're here. Hopefully it'll snow more often in Florida. It's only that one time a few weeks ago. Because we would absolutely hate to lose you. So Good. I'm glad that it's been a good experience.
Yeah.
Now tell me this. I have to ask you about trips because, and in closing of hearing all these great veterinary stories and a little bit about you and your experiences. I know you had a trip planned a few weeks ago and it didn't work out.
No.
But I want to hear a little bit about that. And I want to hear about where you want to go next and maybe like the best trip you've taken. So tell me a little bit about
that.
About your trips, about when you are a traveler, but only fancy on paper.
Only fancy on paper.
Yes.
I was supposed to go to Iceland a couple of weeks ago, which got canceled due to weather.
Yep.
So I was very bummed about that.
Yes.
Oh God, my favorite trip and where I want to go next. I have to think about this. So my dad's from Portugal.
Yes.
So I am a bit biased here, but I do love Portugal. And if you haven't gone, I know you've been many times.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so great.
Yeah.
The people are so warm.
They are.
The food's delicious.
Yeah.
It's just, it might be my favorite trip.
I think so.
I think,
we shouldn't tell people.
We should stop. Yes. I agree. There's too many tourists now.
Yeah. Me being one of them.
I'm a tourist too.
Well, I don't know. You have the right to be there, but you're right. The people are warm. Mm-hmm. It's inexpensive.
Yes.
People are hardworking.
Mm-hmm. They
take pride in their work and in their environment, in their accommodations.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just, they know how to live life.
Mm-hmm.
They're very family oriented.
Yep.
They're calm.
Mm-hmm.
There's no big flashy anything.
No.
And I mean, I'm a Catholic. I am at mass every Sunday, no matter where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that there.
Yeah.
I like the saints. And so I enjoy seeing that
mm-hmm.
in a different way there in St. Anthony. So it just, it feels like home. It feels like what I would do here, but in a different light.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful place.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that would be your favorite place to go?
I think so. Probably.
And then if you could go anywhere and not have jet lag and not, where would you go?
Oof. I don't know. That is a good, well, you threw in the jet lag thing.
If you didn't have jet lag, if you could go anywhere.
Maybe Japan. I'm secretly terrified of the Pacific Ocean because it's so vast and planes go missing there all the time.
Okay.
So I'm terrified of crashing into the ocean. But yeah, Japan, I think.
Maybe by boat.
By boat. Yeah, something like that. Or just stick to,
yeah,
go the other way. If there's no jet lag, then I'll go east.
Yes. Versus west.
And just go over land the entire time. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good route.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? What else would you say? Okay. I have one final question. This will be it.
Okay.
Living your life how you're living it now, will the 80-year-old Ariana be happy?
Yes.
Very interesting story today. Thank you so much for being on with me, Dr. Pereira. Some great tips for new grads, for veterinarians that have been in the workplace for a long time. I'll have another interview with Dr. Anderson on one of the other shows coming up. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe at Tales to Tell Podcast. Thanks for listening.